Everyone talks about these companies. We talk with them. Welcome to Insider Talks, the show where we interview China-based professionals on hot and thought-provoking topics.
Hello, everyone. Today, I'm very happy to have with me Dr. Renata Thiébaut. We have been interacting for a few times now on e-commerce in China. And I'd like to talk about what's happening in the digital landscape in China for more specifically cosmetic and beauty brands, companies, products, and especially what's happening between Tmall and other platforms. And as what you do with Web2 Asia, you're looking at the full spectrum of digital e-commerce and digital platforms. So we are in a world now where it's not only Tmall centric. You have what we call private traffic with WeChat, with Xiaohongshu, with live streaming, Weibo, and so on. We are able to create traffic. I've heard from some brands, from some people working in Shanghai, that brands are more and more skeptical about Double 11, which is a big thing because it has driven a lot of traffic in the past. And traffic is key to rank on Tmall because you are ranked on the historic traffic from the beginning of your shop. So my first question to you, Renata, would be, do you witness the same things, that brands are a bit more cautious with Tmall, a bit more cautious in considering Double 11, and maybe some of them considering to skip it on Tmall?
Hi, good morning. Thanks for inviting me once more to be part of this amazing work that you are doing at Daxue Consulting. So to answer your question, there is this still mentality, or let's say lack of knowledge, that Double 11 is all about discounts. So you do not need to give discounts per se. There are many other mechanisms the brand can work on if they are premium, for example, not to damage their brand image. So usually they can offer a beautiful gift box, for example, that would work as well, samples of at least 10% discount, right? That would be more or less the equivalent. So brands can be very creative. They do not need to give the actual discount on Double 11.
So you mentioned exactly the point why brands are skeptical about Double 11, because most players are saying it's all about discount. But what you are saying is you can reshape the value of what you sell. You can bundle with another product. You can reshape the value with the packaging. So it's all about the value you are providing during Double 11 on Tmall. That would be your answer on how to prepare for Double 11 this year.
Exactly. So I work with many premium brands, and they do not need to give coupon discounts. They work on adding value by, like you said, giving away some samples, also having a nice package, a nice gift box, and bundles also work very well.
Would you include what we call co-branding and OTO, one-time offer, in this Double 11? We find out that it could be a way to protect a bit from discounting to do more co-branding. And is it part of your thinking too, or it's more outside of Double 11?
No, co-branding is a very normal way of doing business in China. So the way that brands, they choose who to partner with would be either by, let's say, launching a collection or a product together with another brand, or just sharing the materials like a common banner and exchanging, let's say, coupons. If you buy on my store, you can have 20 renminbi coupon on someone else's store. That works as well. So there are different types of co-branding that brands can do. They only need to be careful with the brands that you partner with. usually it's brands that they can cross-sell their products, and brands, for example, from a similar country, and brands that share same values as them.
We talked about Double 11, where you might reframe your value proposition for Double 11 with specific offers. Would you have some examples in mind, which would be a good example to remember and to have in mind to get inspired about reshaping the value, having a limited offer during Double 11?
Well, I think the best case study that I have for Double 11 happened last year. It was not a big discount that was given, but actually a social media campaign that drove a lot of sales to Kim Kardashian's new shop on Tmall Global. She did a live streaming with the main KOL in China, Viya, and they sold 15,000 bottles of Kim Kardashian West perfume within seconds. So this shows that sometimes it's not the discount, but actually the whole campaign, the whole strategy that you have behind.
I see. Talking about co-branding, that's one of the ways to change the value proposition you're offering. There's a lot of questions about the long-term effect of co-branding. We see a lot of association with British Museum. We talked about cosmetics and beauty, for instance. We saw a lot of association with the Forbidden City, at least 3 or 4 of them in 2 years, starting with L'Oreal and then other ones. What would be your way of thinking of co-branding and co-association, not to be too much, to make sense? And how do you interpret, understand this certain focus on British Museum, Forbidden City? What's the thinking behind it?
The thinking behind is that Chinese consumers, they are looking for more cultural things, more of a storytelling. That's why it works well in China, but I do agree with you, it tends to be too much. So cooperation with designers, especially whenever you have a more affordable brand doing cooperation with big expensive brands or designers, work very well as well. I know H&M does a very good job when they partner with Versace, for example. So they can bring these big brands to the public that cannot often afford them. So this is a very good strategy.
My understanding of this strategy would have been also to leverage their own traffic, the traffic and the visibility of British Museum, and to get out of this visibility from Weibo, WeChat, and so on, an offer that a brand of like a Perfect Diary did would actually leverage. And the other aspect I'm seeing is that helps also to create a limited edition with a pricing which would be a bit different from the usual pricing. Do you agree with those 2 aspects? And what would be the other aspects you are seeing into the market?
I agree more with limited edition because it creates a certain anxiety in the consumer to purchase the product that they are not going to purchase in the future. Usually the visuals, the packaging is very appealing for the consumer. That's why they also want to have the limited edition. So many brands use this mechanism. MAC, for example, MAC Cosmetics is one of the leading brands that work very well on this.
MAC, MAC, right? The cosmetic ones, the
yes,
makeup ones, sorry.
Yes.
I see. So we talked about Double 11 and how to, again, change the value, but we in some way didn't talk about what a lot of companies are also complaining about with Double 11 and Tmall, generally speaking, is the increase of cost. And that's a common complaint, that's a common observation that they feel the cost has increased. From your own experience, a long, very rich experience on working with Tmall, Do you feel that's the case, that now you have to, the cost per click, the cost per million, but also the campaign in itself, you have to pay for more assets within Tmall, and now everything has to be paid, whether before you could have a bit more cooperation with Tmall. What's your opinion and view on this?
Well, we do have to consider two things. One is there is not only Double 11. For many brands, September has the highest number of sales, or maybe June for fashion, the mid-year campaign. And then there is March 8th, the Queen's Day. So there are so many campaigns. Maybe what brands mean is that they need to give discounts and have all of these promotional mechanisms pretty much every month. So it can be difficult for them.
I see. So you mean that they have the feeling of increasing cost, because actually every single month you would have a campaign to manage, a campaign to organize, and then spending on this campaign. That's your feeling. Actually, the average cost of CPC, CPM, or a conversion of an average client has not increased that much, but what you would say what has increased much is the over the year, the number of occasions and the basically compulsory occasions to do marketing.
Exactly. And now there are even more campaigns depending on the category. There is a fashion show, there's China Valentine's Day. There are so many campaigns, and the brand really needs to know the calendar to prepare beforehand for the campaigns. Because for me, it's also not a good strategy to be out of the campaign, because it is a good source of traffic. So the brands really needed to work on their price mechanism, where, of course, it will not damage the brand image, and also they can offer something to the consumers, because in the end, it's also about the consumers, right? How they view the brand and what they are gaining from this campaign. So if you do not give anything, also it's not a very good point for the brand. So they needed to balance, but being out of the campaigns is also, I do not think it's good.
I see. One interview we did in the past told us about the brands in you, is that in order to win on Tmall, you need to work outside of Tmall. You need to be known outside of Tmall in order to convert after on the marketplace. Marketplace being more, at the end of the day, a tool to convert and to process a payment. That was his vision. And then that's bringing the topic of private traffic more, or traffic generally speaking, where basically outside of Tmall, how do you generate traffic? For a long time, you had Weibo. Sometimes you even had blogs on other platforms, but they didn't take the momentum. And now you have new platforms like Xiaohongshu, like live streaming, and of course, Douyin. When people talk to you about private traffic, how do you react to this? Because still, most of the sales are going through Tmall. On the other hand, you have examples like Perfect Diary and others who are seemingly doing a good job and at least getting momentum with what we call private traffic.
So for a brand to succeed on Tmall, they need to think of outside traffic, but also inside of the marketplace through keywords bidding and banner display. Because there is a tendency that the brand thinks that the marketplace already has a lot of consumers and they only need to open an online shop, but we all know it does not work this way. So they do need to invest within the platform as well, together with social media. When we talk about cosmetics, we should look into Little Red Book and also Bilibili. Bilibili is a short video platform that is very important for beauty and cosmetics.
With Xiaohongshu, Bilibili, I think both of them were not existing 5 years ago. You see some brands like, again, we take the example of Perfumery with Xiaohongshu, started on Xiaohongshu, got momentum on Xiaohongshu, and then leveraged WeChat and other platforms very well, WeChat as well. And how would you advise companies to go or not to go on some platforms? Because it's changing so fast, and some brands may be skeptical, as they were skeptical on Tmall initially, and then they went on Tmall. But should they jump on every opportunity and try it? Or what would be your parameters to think of it?
The main concern of most of the brands, especially the ones I work with, because they are smaller and more niche brands, is the cost. So I do suggest them to choose a little red book. In this case, they do not need to be on all platforms. They can open their own Weibo account, their own WeChat account, and post content every 2 days, for example, every 3 days. And then they partner with KOLs on preferably Little Red Book and sometimes on Bilibili. So I also suggest them to work more with KOCs, micro KOLs because of the cost. And then if they have the budget, then they can work with one big KOL or 3 mid-tier KOLs, but focus more on the smaller ones so the brand gains traction. So consumers know more about the brand. So it's in the end about budget as well. Of course, if we are talking about other big brands, they do spend a lot. They spend 8 million, 10 million renminbi on KOL, but it's not the reality of most of the brands.
Talking about KOC and KOL, there is a system of a bit of pyramid affiliations in China, which Taobao has started, but other platforms are also promoting. How do you feel about that? Is it something I would advise brands to do, that actually people share your content and push for selling because they get a small return? We interviewed one consumer who is making 1,000 GMB every month just by basically posting on WeChat, and then other friends posting on WeChat, and then it's creating a chain of people buying from her origin. What's your perspective on this way of selling?
This works as well, and it was one of the main factors that contributed for Perfect Diary success in China. So this really creates traction and awareness for the brand. So right now, the trend is to work with KOCs. So you can either give them products so they can try and post for you on social media. And some of them started charging as well for that. So it's a bit dangerous because we see KOCs as consumers who tries different products, and they post on social media or tell their friends if they like the product or not. And this should be a more natural way. But as soon as they start charging, it creates more hustle for the brand, and also the prices will increase for social media, and they are already very high, especially during campaign periods.
And is the system of affiliation that we just mentioned the best way to work with KOC, or is better to identify them one by one because the way those affiliation works is that you put a link in a platform, and anyone could actually use the link and resell. So it's you don't choose much about who is going to resell for you. But on the perspective with KOL, you would choose and pay those people. So what about KOC? Would you pick them, or would you let them decide who is going to resell your product or advocate for your product? How would you work with them? Identification and management.
You have two different models. The first one is the affiliate program. On Alibaba, from Alibaba, you can define a percentage you are going to pay to the affiliates if they sell your product product. So let's say 5%, 10%, as a matter of incentive for them to push for your product and share the links of your brand and your product. But when you identify the KOCs, people who already mention about your brand, or even if you leverage the data you already have from your own consumers, you can manage better. And sometimes you do not need to pay them. You can give samples of your products for them to promote your brand. So I do believe that the second option is a very good option, and it's going to grow even more.
So identifying them because they put your hashtag or they at you somewhere, whether it's in Weibo, WeChat, or elsewhere, and you would interact with them on a one-to-one basis to see what the potential could be with them, and you could offer one or two products or one specific product for them to try, and the deal would be, we offer something for free, but you talk about it.
That's correct.
Yeah, and it's much more authentic that a KOL and who is going to actually just get paid and mention it during live streaming. Like Li Jiaqi did that recently and even said, I'm not going to talk about this brand because he didn't pay me, and he stopped live talking about this brand. So that's damaging a lot live streaming. Did you feel it was damaging live streaming, this kind of behavior?
I think Chinese consumers still like KOLs, and especially Austin Lee. He is very famous in China, and sometimes he is too natural, right? So that's why people like him. But consumers know when it is paid, right? So I am only talking about this brand because I've been paid to do this. But as consumer evolves, they will tend to look for something more natural. At Web2Asia, for example, we started doing our own live streaming with our teams, with our customer service, in a very informal way, because we know very well every single detail about the products, and especially customer service. They know how to handle people, how to handle all questions. And the consumers really like, because they know it's not a paid initiative and they can ask whatever they want. They feel usually very comfortable whenever we have live streaming with that. So being natural is also very important. I do believe that in the future, consumers will look for something more natural that they do not see clearly that is paid, right?
It's very interesting that you said that you used your own, I would say, back end of the brand, like customer service, to do a live streaming. It makes a lot of sense because those people know about the product and also know about the comments of the clients, what they did like and didn't like, and that's putting much more authenticity to what seems to be more like a TV shopping with live streaming, where basically you get a deal and you push a product just because you have a deal.
Exactly. So sometimes also do the live streaming because consumers also like seeing a foreign face of a person who has been in China for so long, and especially when it's a foreign brand as well, to give more assurance to them, together with my teams, with the project manager, and also customer service. I think it's so interesting the way that we do, even in a very informal way. Consumers really respect this type of live streaming.
I see. What about the difference between live streaming and just recording a nice video explaining the product? I understand that consumers can interact live, but also does it give a sense that the video is very new, so very recent, so very close to the product you are going to buy, because it's just live, so that the product that it is live. What do you think what is the mind of the consumer to prefer live streaming toward just a very well edited video?
Well, with the live streaming, we can interact with consumers. We can also share different promotions, coupons, for example, that we are doing at that time. We can answer questions, and it is much more natural. If it's a video, it's edited, and then you also have a length that you can post on social media, let's say 30 seconds or 1 minute even. It is not the same. So interaction, I think, is the key for us to really get closer to our consumers.
And do you feel through live streaming, is that been possible to create a community? Because what people may not know from the West is that when you interact, actually, you see what you are writing on the video and everyone else is seeing what you are writing. So basically, it helps you to ask all the questions you need before buying it. Some questions you may not have thought about, some experience you may not have had in the past that someone else might have had. Do you feel that this aspect of community, seeing also the other questions from other people, is important in live streaming and attracting people to join?
Yes, it is. So they also create small debates. For example, with a Jellycat, I really like mentioning Jellycat because they have a very strong community of young professionals buying even multiple products because they can have a collection. So whenever we have a live streaming with them, they share their views, they say which teddy bear they prefer.
I see.
Right, so they
I
can
see.
share also their experience with the products they already have.
Interesting. I think the community part of the live streaming is sometimes a bit missed by people who are not living in China, not seeing one live streaming. This not only because live with a person who is live streaming, but also with everyone else who is watching it. So we mentioned private traffic as a big word for 2020. I think it is a word in e-commerce. I don't know if you would agree with me, but would be one of the words would be private traffic. What would you include in private traffic? There is one element which is usually known as owned traffic. I don't know why in the West we talk more about owned traffic and in China more private traffic, but it is a brand.com, the website in itself. But still so far, I feel it's still very hard to gain momentum from the brand.com. Do you agree with me that it's hard because of the Chinese market, or would you say that it's hard because brands have not tried everything, have not done everything they could do, are still too shy and too relying on Tmall?
It is both. If you do have your .com.cn, you do need to do Baidu SEM, for example. You need to promote, attract traffic. And if it is only for branding purpose, yes, the brand should have it, but it's very difficult to promote a store on a .com.cn compared to a marketplace because of existing traffic that these marketplaces already have and all of the paid media that you can do even within the marketplace. So for most of my clients, they do not have and they do not intend to have their websites in China. They purely rely on the platform, the marketplace, and also social media channels, and that's it.
So for a Westerner, brand.com would be part of private traffic. We saw that it's certainly not the focus in China. It can even be skipped. We know WeChat is part of the ecosystem of private traffic. Xiaohongshu would be part of the ecosystem of private traffic because you are less reliant on the platform itself, but more on KOL, KOC within the platform. What other elements would you consider within a private traffic strategy?
Well, I would consider still doing Weibo, WeChat, Little Red Book, and for cosmetics, Bilibili. There are other platforms like Kuaishou and TikTok, Douyin in China, but it should not be the focus, of course. It depends on the budget of the brand. and the type of products they're selling. So the way that they should design their strategy would be by the category, by the type of products they sell. And then this is the external traffic that they can bring to the store. And then you have the paid ones within the marketplace, which are the banner display, the mini site. Mini site is the little banner. Whenever a person search for the brand, there will be a banner where they will click and open the store. There is keywords bidding and affiliates program. So it really depends on budget and type of product for them to select the right strategy.
I see.
But in the end, what the brands need to do is to leverage the fact that they have a store to drive traffic to the store, not only do branding, but convert this traffic into sales within the store on Tmall or another marketplace.
Talking about the new competition, Chinese brands, we have in mind the famous ones, new ones, Perfect Diary, started on Xiaohongshu again, Little Red Book, but there's also Little Dream Garden, was started on Douyin, for instance, or Floracis, we started with, got big with live streaming. When you look at those Chinese brands, especially in the beauty and cosmetic industry, how do you analyze the success? How do you interpret them, and what key learnings do you get from them?
These new Chinese brands, they are gaining a lot of traffic and also awareness within the market, because they know how to use the data very well to understand consumer behavior. So if you see Perfect Diary, they partnered with Austin Lee, and they created a collection with a puppy, and then they donated money to shelter dogs in needs, for example, for the pet, they partnered with some pet NGOs, for example. So they really catch the trends of the industry, and not only this, they bring something else to the consumer. They do things that most of foreign brands are not even doing yet. So this is the difference. They play well with the data to understand what is going on, what consumers want, and not only this, they foresee the trends in the market.
But how do they, what data they collect, and how do they process it to be better at understanding the consumer? What would be your understanding on how what they collect and how they process it to be outstanding?
Well, first, they use a lot of social media as well, different KOL, not only to promote the brand, but also to understand what type of products a consumer would prefer. So, for example, I have a collection of 50 products. I do not need to push all of them. So when I open a store, I think as a foreign brand that my hero product overseas will be the hero product here. Hence, I will choose it as my hero product, and I do paid marketing. But then it ends up that the consumer will like something else. But sometimes there is a wrong thinking that I will insist on pushing my core products because maybe I have better profits or things like that. But no, in this case, the Chinese brands, they, of course, they know the market, and they are able to act very quickly to a strategy that is not necessarily working for them to shift and focus on something else. And then with this, let's say, split test, and also through data analysis, they are able to work on their strategy, and then that's why they are winning the market. So in the beginning, it's very difficult because you do not have access to your consumer base, you do not you do not know what you expect. But as soon as you have your store, as soon as you do surveys, questionnaire with focus groups, for example, then you have a better idea. So that's why, yeah, the mentality and also the fact that they are able to react very quickly and foresee the market is maybe the key point of the brand.
To finish with this today talk, what would be the keywords for you in 2020 for e-commerce? I said private traffic would be a keyword. Would you agree with it? I mean, I think 2 years ago, we were talking about omni-channel, you know, and I think with the case of Aldi, you were in omni-channel, for instance, but what this year seems to be private traffic. What do you agree with it? And what other words would you add? What are the keywords?
Well, for this year, I agree with you. And I do think that especially live streaming has a very big stake into e-commerce. It contributes to around 10% of e-commerce right now, and the tendency is to grow. So there will be more mechanism within live streaming, but something more natural. Like I said, more usage of KOCs rather than big KOL. And for next year, I do not think this year will be possible, but next year, technology will be very, very important with new features and new tools for the consumer to try products that they cannot touch and see.
Are you thinking about the 5G?
Yes, and also different mechanism within the apps of the marketplace. JD, for example, is investing a lot into blockchain technology to show consumers trust about certain products. So right now they are working with diamonds, because millennials buy a lot of diamonds online, but sometimes they do not know if it's a fake or the quality of the diamond. So there are some pilot projects with mangoes, with milk powder, with diamond, but this will be very common in the future, cross categories.
Not only through the comment, because China was focused on, I mean, the Chinese market was focusing on the comment, the number of stars of products, but here with something which would be more reliable through a system of some way blockchain, which I still have a difficulty to envision, but I see something more robust as what we have with simply comments, which could be faked. That's my understanding. Is it correct?
Yes, it's correct. But the marketplaces are working with big firms, IBM, also Walmart in the US, to develop this technology through blockchain, because for many types of products, consumers are still skeptical.
Yeah.
And they do not trust. They simply do not know if the product is original or not, or if the quality is there or not. So this will be very important for them to give this reassurance about the provenance of the product, expiry date especially.
Yeah, the skepticism of consumers, when we look back in history, it could only be higher with marketplaces more than when you had the Carrefour and Walmart, because Carrefour and Walmart were picking the product they would put on their shelves. But here with marketplaces, everyone can put a product on marketplace and sell. That's a problem with Amazon too, where people find out actually there is very, very little checks on the products which are on the platforms. So you need to rely on the comments of people and maybe, as you said, something more robust like a blockchain, which could include some features of the product itself to know what kind of features are working well and to compare them within all the products. Very interesting development for next year indeed to look at. Thanks very much, Renata, for your time. Hope you enjoyed it. I did. And hope to see you soon in Shanghai, because you are still in Canada.
So it is my pleasure. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Thanks. Bye-bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.